love letters in the holiday time of my beauty, and am now a subject for them? Let me see. Ask me no reason why I love you, for though love use reason for his physician, he admits him not for his counselor. You are not young. Oh. No more am I. Go to then, there's sympathy. You are merry. So am I. Ha ha. Well, then there's more sympathy. You love sack, and so do I. Would you desire better sympathy? Let it suffice thee, Mistress Page, at the least, if the love of a soldier can suffice, that I love thee. I will not say pity me, 'tis not a soldier-like phrase, but I say love me. By me, thine own true knight, by day or night, or any kind of light, with all his might, for thee to fight. John Falstaff. Falstaff! Oh! What the what? The first time I heard Shakespeare's words, I was 9 years old and sitting under the stars at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival. And I remember it perfectly. The stars twinkling. The pine trees stretching spiny fingers towards a full moon that was shining on the Rockies. The crowd humming with excitement and looking at a stage that was lit up and glowing. And then the actors, the merry wives of Windsor, decked out in their velvet tunics and skirts. But then the words that sprang from the audience sprang from the stage into the audience and broke on its back in a million pieces in an elaborate chain of syntax and lilt, and I sat, a child of 9, on my knees on red stone benches, my face scrunched up with desperate determination. John Falstaff. Oh, wicked, wicked world. One that is well nigh worn to pieces with age to show himself a young gallant. What an unweighted behaviour hath this Flemish drunkard picked, with the devil's name, out of my conversation, that he dare in this manner assay me. Well, heaven forgive me, I will describe a bill in the Parliament for the putting down of men. What? I looked around me at the audience, laughing and watching the stages, looks of appreciation and gratification on their faces. This is what they'd come for. This is what they'd known would happen. It was the whole point of waiting 3 hours for the sun to set, so they could sit in the dark and laugh at the words John Falstaff. And I knew at that moment I had no idea what they were talking about. It sounded like English, but only when the occasional recognizable word would pass me by, like and, or the, or. And I looked at my dad, whose face was just as elated as the others, and I thought, are you kidding me? I thought we were going to a play. What is this? And sensing my frustration, he said, Terra, shh. This is what he does when he's thinking. Just wait. Relax. Let your ear adjust to the poetry. But then, as if slipping on the secret decoder ring from the bottom of the cereal box, it happened. And I was sucked into the language, and I could understand it. And it was wonderful. Oh, I will exhibit a bill in the Parliament for the putting down of men. How shall I be revenged on him? For revenged I will be, as sure as his guts are made of puddings. women, these merry wives, were witty and cunning and captivating to watch. They had the upper hand in all of the scenes with the men, and they alone were the heroes, or I suppose more appropriately, the sheroes of the play. And now I knew what everyone else in that theater already knew. This wasn't just any play. These weren't just any women. This was magic. Shakespearean magic. And it struck me that night to the quick, and I knew that I had to do this. I had to stand on stages, living my life wrapped in corsets and putting my tongue around extraordinary language. And so began my relationship with William John the Bard, Billy Bob Shakespeare. And it has been one of the longest and the most fulfilling of my life. Ours is a love based on history and comedy and poetry and tragedy and romance. The man has killed me as many times as he has loved me. And unlike the kid at Starbucks who insists on calling me Terra, I know that my Shakespeare will be there for me each and every time I reach for him on the shelf. But in order to understand how all of this came about, one need look only as far as my family. For like all good neuroses, my obsession with Shakespeare began at home. Now, my father, whom I mentioned before, is a computer scientist by trade and a scholar by hobby. He gave me a love of history and a fascination with language, specifically with the music of words. As a computer programmer, he speaks in numbers and algorithms, but my dad also speaks in music, meter, tempo, and rhyme. He studies ancient religions and archaeology, and he taught himself Greek and Hebrew for fun. He's a very easy man to look up to, but a difficult man to emulate. Alternatively, my mother is all things spiritual and empowering. A staunch feminist in her youth, she evolved into a holistic psychotherapist. She led the crusade in our family to live lives of service and kindness. Now, Terra, remember, it's others first, self second, and kindness always. And never interrupt me when I'm on the phone. She believes in honoring the sacred and the ritual, so much so that when my sister and I each got our periods, she invited the designated wise woman from among her friends to come to the house and present us with a rose and a ritual sharing of the sacred feminine and the goddess within. An incredibly comfortable experience at 13. And so, computers and art and music and the sacred feminine raised me and gave me an appreciation of the past and a love affair with the greatest writer in Western civilization. But it wasn't always like that. There was a time in the beginning when I was terrified of the Bard. Who was this iconic god of literature and poetry, this Shakespeare, and why was he so important that everyone I knew revered him? And so, more out of frustration than desire, I studied and I learned. And I learned the history, and I learned the translations, and I learned that Shakespeare was just a guy trying to make a living. He was a playwright. He didn't know he was bound to be a legend. If he'd known, he probably would have taken better care of his notes. I don't know if you know this, but there is no existing example of his handwriting in his plays. There wasn't even at the time because of the way they wrote them. To this day, the only reason we know how his signature was done was from a few documents and contracts. Now, I've made sure that won't happen to me because I've put all of my journals and my practice autographs safely in my chest. In my hope chest. And as a teenager, I realized that I was living the great Shakespearean soap opera that we all live in high school, because he was writing about things I could understand, like love and loss and friends and enemies and trials and tribulations, and suddenly he wasn't just scary, he was relevant. And once he became relevant, he became interesting, yeah. And once he became interesting, he became a passion. And to be passionate, or not to be passionate, well, you know.